Hey guys, welcome back. Jeff, Digital Gate Studios. Today I got Jesse with me.
I can't wait for this one.
Guys, I am so excited. I cannot wait to talk about this deck, but real quick, we brand new to Facebook. We got a Facebook page, so Digital Gate Studios on there. Feel free to message us. We're gonna do a lot of like behind the scenes, fun little pictures, little videos, tidbits here and there. So, and we're just very excited to get out there, be a little bit more social with everybody.
And it's an easier way for you guys to reach out to us too.
Yeah. Right. And while we're here, like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube. Let us know you like us these deck profiles and gameplays, and we will keep having them come your way.
Yeah, we got a bunch in the can. That's
bunch
gonna be
of
fun.
stuff. Yes. So let's start off with this deck. So this deck, I have yet to figure out the perfect name for it, so I'll have my thumbnail guy over there figure it out.
I know.
I think this deck is a purple turbo Omnimon X-Antibody deck. That's the way I think of it in my head. And I want you guys to have that thought in your head when you're thinking about how this deck plays, when you go to test it, when you go to try it, and when you see the deck laid out like you will at the very end of this video. After I have it all, you know, I'll go through one by one with the cards and show you the combo, right? But the idea is that AvengeKid is a great card to get this whole party started. Reduce the cost by 1 for every option in you and your opponent's trash, so that way you can get him for free. Done that, you know, definitely not in the same turn, but I've done it multiple times in a game where he gets out there either free, 2, 3, dirt cheap, right?
It's a card you're used to seeing in security control decks, right? Like if you hear AvengeKid, you're like, that's a security control deck.
Yeah.
Well, this deck takes it to the next level and bases an entire deck around it, which is
exactly
a lot of fun. Yeah.
So he's for sure the MVP of the deck, with the Omnimon X-Antibody being that final boss, because you want to get to him as quickly as possible, and then you keep either tucking X-Antibodies underneath it to trash your opponent's security, so you can kind of control the game state, and you can just do a bunch of checks like that, right?
Yeah,
so it's very good against security control as well, because it trashes the options you don't want to hit, and then it also puts it in trash so you can AvengeKid yourself later.
Yeah.
So then we got cards like Sister Mont Blanc to help accelerate draw and to get cards in trash, and we got fun little purple options that really help the combo as well.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the actual deck, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. Try to remember this. Okay, so now I have to say before I get started, right? I'll put out my level 2 while I'm talking. This deck, unfortunately, was not an original idea. I did see an awesome group on the Facebook, right? Somebody posted this awesome deck list, and I was like, I have to try this.
Yeah.
This deck is insane.
You sent this to me when you were in San Diego or San Jose,
yeah,
right?
So I was traveling, and I just saw this on Facebook, and I was like, I need to build this and test this right now. And I don't think I've been more excited about a deck in 2023. I know it's the beginning, but I'm very excited, and I'm very much enjoying this deck.
It's the first baby of 2023.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, really, it's all about the purple base to get the options in trash that you want to use, and you just have really strong, powerful options that you can take full advantage of. So really, this is kind of like a personal preference, right? In my opinion, this is your best setup for what you can use for level 3s and level 2s. Level 2, I'm using Demi-Mera from BT3. It's a great on deletion, draw 1, trash 1. Really helps get the cards you want in trash and get those cards that you need in hand quickly, because this deck definitely relies on draw. In my opinion, this deck is more of a, yes, there's Darkness Wave, but it's not a blind mill. Yes, you sometimes have to do that, but sometimes it can backfire on you if you do that too early when you don't have the pieces in hand, and I'll be sure to talk about that a little bit more as we get further into the deck. The guys list that I originally saw was playing Elecmon instead of the Gabu. Makes a lot of sense. The Elecmon is a great on deletion, delete an opponent's level 3, which is really nice because the weakness of this deck is your opponent's Psychmon or your opponent's Solarmon, preventing you from reducing play cost. So if you can't play that AvengeKid, right? So definitely agree with the Elecmon, but I've been really liking this Gabumon.
Yeah. I was not a believer.
You were not a believer, which is
I was
okay.
like Itmon all day.
On paper, you would not think this Gabumon, but I had to prove him wrong.
You did?
With a bunch of testing, guys. So everybody type F in the chat for Jesse, who had to test against this deck for like 2 hours before this video. Give him his consultancy.
It is strong.
But it's great. BT2, on deletion, draw 2, trash 1. So if you notice, we got this draw and trash, and we're going to follow that up perfectly with a fun level 4, which is just, it's so good in these types of decks that want to get cards as quickly as you can into hand and trash. Eismon Scatterroad.
Yeah, I would say it's like either that or the
Yes.
Dober, right?
Yes.
You would say? Probably?
Yeah, the Dober is a good one too, for sure, but this Eismon is the perfect one for this deck.
Yeah.
And I haven't thought about changing it. I haven't felt the need to change it. So basically, you have this whole stack right here that can draw you 3, 2, 1, so 6 cards, and trash 3, 1, 1, trash 4. All right, so you'll gain a positive 2. Sometimes it's great when you start your opening hand with both of these. You ideally do want to prioritize setting this stack up first, so that way you can choose what's in trash instead of blind milling, because you do need to draw your Omnimon and your Avenge Kid as quickly as possible, right? You don't want to blind mill those because you won't be able to continue the game.
There's nothing that pulls those back out of trash.
So, like I said, I've been doing a lot of practice with this deck. I've been very excited, and I've been learning the sequencing. So I'll be sure to share my thoughts as we continue to go on. And sometimes even turn 1, if you just don't have another move, hard playing him for 4 to start that draw engine, because either A, they're going to have to delete it, which will give you your cards, or B, you have a swing next turn to potentially draw the cards, right? So it's really not bad. And to perfectly complement that, we are playing the restricted Eismon. Absolutely great card in this deck. I wish I could play it as a 4 of. I would definitely figure out a way to fit 4 of it in this deck. But for now, we're going to use it as a 1 of. Very strong in the deck. For those of you who don't know what this card does, when you trash a card, you can play this for free from the trash, basically. And then he also gains plus 2,000 additional DP for each Eismon in trash. Yep. So it's a very strong card.
That's when it's trash from hand specifically.
When it's trash from hand, yes, exactly. Yeah. So what do we need to trash cards from hand, right? Well, we have these cards that trash cards from hand that can play that Eismon. But we also have Sister Mont Blanc.
Yep.
Sister Mont Blanc, if you guys have not seen our podcast episode, I did a whole segment on why I've been loving putting the Sister Mont Blanc card in any deck that just needs draw a card, or it's not a conventional stack deck, right?
The generic Kaguru.
It's just so good. You trash a card and you draw a card.
You draw 2 cards.
And you draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
You can draw 3 cards if you trash an Underworld's Call.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, if I get that opening hand that's just so good, hard play the Sister Mont Blanc, trash the Underworld's Call to draw 1 additional card. I'm now 3 cards in hand more.
With a body on board.
With a body on board. And 3K is nothing to laugh at, right? Yeah. 3K can delete a lot of level 3s that have swung if they have effects. We've kind of gotten away from vanilla level 3s at this point, where people are not playing higher DP level 3s. So let's say they're level 3 swings of security. If they hit that, 3K is a good threshold for sure.
For sure.
Now, this is a card that took me a little bit, and I don't know if I would have thought about this card myself had I not seen his list, right? So this particular Sistermon, this level 3, that's a 5K. On play, you can take a Sister Mont Blanc from trash, tuck it underneath to recover 1. That's the initial reading, right? That's the first effect. And that's at first I was like, what do you really want to recover? Yes, recovery is nice in any deck, don't get me wrong. But like, why would you want to recover? But then, like you were telling me earlier, it's great to recycle the Sister Mont Blanc so you can get that draw engine going again.
The trash engine,
if you play this deck and you guys try this out, you'll notice, maybe sometimes you'll be sitting on this Awaken and you're like, I'm not doing with the Awaken. Maybe I added more purple level 3s to increase that consistency there, or maybe you decide more options.
Or a memory denier.
Or a memory denier like Gazimon, right? Because you don't want to do a Gazi to stop yourself. I definitely would understand why, but I think it's really nice because this deck does play few Digimon, relatively speaking, to other decks. So you do still have to get aggression on board, still have to have bodies on board. The Sister Mont Blanc does help with just being, a body on board to swing as well. So
don't let them fool you. As soon as we get those alt art Gazis, those are going in there. I know it.
All right, let's get into the next card of the deck, shall we?
So you're skipping from 3 to 6.
We are skipping. Well, we went 3 to 4 to 3 to a 3 Awakened, back to the 6.
Let me see if I champions.
Can't fix the glare real quick. It's glaring. Maybe I'll just move this.
Just scoot it over. Yeah,
I'll scoot it over for everybody. Scoot it over to AvengeKid. So we are playing AvengeKidmon. AvengeKid, outstanding card in this deck. It has a great on play of being able to, if you return a total of 8 options, both you and your opponents, you get to go ahead, 7 cards returned by this effect, not 8. You get to delete an opponent's 8K, right? Which is really good. The 8K is a relevant number. We're talking deletes Metal Greymon. It deletes level 5s and below, basically. It can do a lot of damage, and you can play this guy for cheap.
Yep.
Right? So we are playing a fat stack of options here. We're playing 23 options to be exact.
Yep.
right? Ginormous
That's not
stack.
counting what your opponents play.
And that's not including your opponent's options, whether it's going to be Hades Force for BT11, whether it's Security Control with the Chaos Dags, with the Flame Hell Size, whether it's just straight up Gaia Force because we all love red Gaia Force. You return those to the bottom of the deck, you return yours to the bottom of the deck, and you get to reduce the cost by 1. That's the whole key of this deck, right? You're using this, the low end, to draw on trash cards. So that way you can kind of choose what's in trash, get rid of the pieces that you don't need at the moment. Kind of, I don't want to say blind mill, right? Because sometimes you want to avoid the blind mill. It is in this deck when you need it, and it is useful at times. Do not get me wrong. But it also does put those cards back into the deck. So I've yet to deck out guys with this particular deck.
You're never going to deck out with this deck.
I don't think I'm going to deck out with this deck, because of the fact that the options go back to the bottom of the deck. So, but I also think my opponent won't deck out either.
Yeah.
It's a tough call. Okay, next card, and the last Digimon of our deck, Omnimon X-Antibody.
The only one you need.
Yes, the only one you need. So, again, the whole point of this deck is how quickly can I get an Omnimon X-Antibody on board, and how quickly can I trash my opponent's security, right? With this deck, you'll trash your opponent's security more than you are attacking, basically, right? Now, yes, you do have this little chip damage, which is never a bad thing. I love little guys swinging aggressively, getting that early chip damage, putting a lot of pressure on my opponent. But sometimes when you're playing against security control, or if you're just playing against a deck that just has a bad matchup or tons of options you're scared of in their security, you can trash it all, right? So, great hole. He can only Digivolve on red or blue, so that's why the Avenge Kid is in the deck, with the purple being that kind of self-mill for the options. So, next card. We're done with Digimon. We're going to get into Tamers.
Your favorite alt-art.
My favorite alt-art in the game. 4 Avenge Kids. Or, 4 Analog Youth. Starts with A. Yeah, Analog Youth. Great card. Any deck that I can all of a sudden play 4 Analog Youth and it's not me stretching, I'm all for it, right? So this whole deck does a lot of work. It gets cards in trash, which is exactly what the Avenge Kid needs, but it also lets you grab a Digimon into hand. So you reveal the top 3, you get to pick a Digimon, because really what you're doing in the early phases of your turns with this deck is you are going, I need to get these in hand, right? You don't need all 4 of each in hand, right? You don't need to wait to make a move until you have all 4 Avenge Kids, but you need one of each before you're really confident about the moves you're making, right? So you're going to try to draw as quickly as you can. You're going to get Digimon as quickly as you can using that Analog Youth. The reason why I bring that up, right, is because we play an option called Darkness Wave. And I'll get that, I'll dive into a little bit more, but if you have an opening hand with an Analog Youth and a Darkness Wave, if you don't have Avenge Kid and Omnimon X, the right move on turn 1 is Analog Youth.
Yeah.
Obviously, ideally, your first turn 1, like your number 1 priority is to either set up an Eismon scatter mode with the Gabumon, but playing a 4 and a 4 of, you're not always going to have that, right? Sister Mont Blanc is a great second choice. It gets a body on board early. It only gives him 3. It draws 2, trash 1 as well. Analog Youth and Darkness Wave are kind of like that order, right? You kind of like Eismon stack, Sister Mont Blanc, Analog Youth, Darkness Wave for priorities of turn 1. So, love the Analog Youth in this deck, but let's get into some actual bodies, shall we? Or, options. Let's talk about
your bodies are all
options.
there.
Yes. We're going to go into our first option of the deck. It is 4 X-Antibody options.
The only one you need.
The only white option in this deck. The rest are purple, right? So, that will make things easy for everybody. The X-Antibody... Again, the original list that I saw was only playing as a 3 of, and I know exactly why he did it as a 3 of, and I don't disagree with his logic. What I find, though, is that with this deck, sometimes you have to trash an X-Antibody option, or sometimes it gets milled, and you just don't have it when you need it. And it is part of the core of this deck. Once you've already Avenge Kid, and you've already Digivolved into Omnimon X-Antibody, whether you tuck the X-Antibody underneath Avenge Kid, swing Digivolve that way to get an Omnimon X, right? Or
after you've already
you've already done that, right? In the Avenge Kid, you can keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah,
right?
You did it to me a bunch of times today, and I was just like, I forgot that he can just keep
Yeah.
loading the X-Antibody, swinging, and then doing the thing again and again and again.
So I really like it as a 4
Really
of.
strong.
I think it's a great 4 of in my opinion. I'm not upset about it. I also really like the security effect, that whole gaining 1 memory back. This deck, surprisingly, does not give your opponent a ridiculous amount of memory.
It doesn't. I thought it would.
Yes, you would think it would with the hard play of the AvengeKid, but it's really easy to get that so cheap where you're giving your opponent 1, 2, 3, or even playing AvengeKid for 0, keeping it your turn, and then maybe giving them 5 or 4 with the Omnimon X-Antibody Digivolution, right, to get set up.
All of your low end is so cheap, but it's so efficient in the draw trash engine that you end up using that against your opponent with the memory denying.
Exactly. And that's the whole kind of thought process with this deck, right? Is that's how it's going to be. So let's get into the next option.
Oh, these are all the crazy ones. You might have to explain like what set some of these are from. Some of these are oldies.
Like BT6 Underworld's Call.
Okay.
As soon as this card came out, I was like, I love this card. But it was one of those like I never felt like I actually got to use.
Because you never got to use the trash from hand.
Yeah.
You always trashed it from deck or something.
In any deck that if you're building purple, especially back in the day with Titanmon back in BT6, the following decks after that were purple were like the Malomyotismon, the Cherub, just things like that in general. You kind of didn't use a full 4 of this. You'd either play your, Hell's Gate, Fly Bullet, Trump Sword, whatever deletion you need, right? You kind of use that purple option.
Yeah. Purple leaned hard
Jack
into removal,
right? Yeah. So this Underworld's Call is perfect in this deck, and I love it as a 4 of. I've never once thought about going to 3 of. I'm so happy this is a 4 of for 2 reasons. 3 reasons. Let's say 3. 1, you trash this card. You get to draw an additional card.
Yeah, so it synergizes well with the Blanc.
It perfectly complements this deck. You get an option in trash, and it increases your draw power to get these quicker into hand, so that way you can make your move, right? So, again, perfect turn 1. Sister Mont Blanc, trash the Underworld's Call. You drew 3 cards, and you got a body on board and an option in trash. That's insane, right? Or let's say Underworld's Call, you trash it with the deletion effect of Gabumon, Demimera, Eismon Scatter Mode, you get to draw a card. So that's the only time it gets to work is when you trash it from hand to be able to draw an additional card, but it's just so nice. Yeah. It just accelerates the deck to crazy levels. Now, this is where Blind Mill comes in. 4 of Darkness Wave. I know I spent the whole kind of first part of this little deck profile video talking against the whole Blind Mill kind of thing. The Darkness Wave really does help. If you have no other move, turn 1, do it. It only gives your opponent 1. It mills 3. Sure, you might mill one of these or whatever, right? But it gets an option in trash, and it's really nice to just kind of accelerate the cards that you need in trash, in hand, or get the cards maybe that you didn't want at the time in trash. Darkness Wave's killer. Yeah. It does activate Insecurity. And now that I'm thinking about it, there was 3 reasons why I liked Underworld's Call. Underworld's Call does activate Insecurity.
Yeah.
Quick little tidbit. Underworld's Call is awesome to recycle Scatter Mode. So if you've already done one AvengeKid and you're trying to get the second one set up, you can tuck options back into trash by bringing an Eismon Scatter Mode out with Underworld's Call when it hits Insecurity. Sorry.
Good stuff.
Darkest Wave also triggers Insecurity, and sometimes that's not where you want to see it. Sometimes it hurts when it hits Insecurity, especially if it's like the first one and you kind of mill some pieces that you need, but I've yet to feel like the Darkest Wave is maybe lose.
Once again, though, very efficient card. Very easy to memory choke your opponent with it.
So now what will happen with this deck is you'll end up, like I said, 23 options in this deck. Once you've played 1 or 2 or even your 3rd AvengeKidmon in a game, right, eventually your deck ends up looking like this, where it's just options. And you kind of, when you tuck the options at the bottom of the deck with the AvengeKid, you do get to choose the order. So what I've noticed is like the early phases of the game, I'm trashing cards with my low end. I'm doing chip damage with the goal of setting up an Omnimon X-Antibody on board by playing the AvengeKid for cheap, right? So Darkness Wave is really nice when you're putting the options back at the bottom of the deck. You kind of stack it, so that way Darkness Wave is the first card you draw. Then you can hard play it, trash 3 cards, and ideally they're the 3 options you put in that order, so that way you're 4 cards closer on AvengeKid for 1 memory.
Yeah. Also worth noting that when you do the X-Antibody, the Omnimon, you're retucking that. You're also putting the AvengeKid back in your deck to use it again. And again and again and again.
So yeah, you're either going to, you tuck the AvengeKid, so your deck ends up being like 20 options, an AvengeKid, and an X-Antibody because you've tucked those using the Omnimon X effect. Yeah. It's just a fun way to play the game for sure. So my next 4 of is going to be a 4 of Mist Memory Boost. So this does in fact, add to the blind mill. The memory boost is really important in this deck, I feel, because it's one of those, you kind of leave it there, and when you're like, oh, I need 2 memory, you can crack it, obviously, but it's also an additional option. Let's say you want to use an AvengeKid. You only have 6 options in trash. You need 1 more to delete an 8K of theirs. You crack that missed memory boost, guess what? 7 options in trash, right? And so then not only do you gain 2 memory for the, memory boost, you then also reduce the play cost of AvengeKid by 1. So there's many times in this deck where I've noticed, like, all of a sudden that missed memory boost has made it stay my turn when I hard play the AvengeKid to then digivolve into Omnimon X-Antibody and clear a board. Yeah. So I'm deleting 1 body, 2 body. Excuse me, I shouldn't say delete. Bottom deck. For clarification, right? Removal, basically, of 2, threats on board, and then you get a trash security. So this memory boost really helps. To complement the missed memory boost, I am playing a 1 of Glaive memory boost.
Glaive or Glaive?
Glaive, Grave, I think. I just feel like when I saw this card, it was supposed to be Grave memory boost.
I think that's what the initial translation
was.
But
ended up being Glaive, I don't know. So this is a card I actually didn't think I was going to like as much as I thought. It's actually like my first time actually using it as well.
It just returns a purple Digimon to hand, right?
It returns a purple Digimon to hand. So that's great because purple Digimon, purple Digimon, purple Digimon.
And you're holding 4 Death X's in your hand, right?
I got 4 Death X's right here. So you can, if you decide you wanted to play Death X, you totally can. There is room if you want to take out for Death X. All right, you guys make that decision. I'm not going to play it. I personally... Yes, obviously it makes any deck stronger, but I feel like it doesn't need in this deck. Yeah. But Glide Memory Boost, I like grabbing this with it. Because then when I trash a card from hand,
you can just replay
I can replay it, and all of a sudden I'm kind of recycling.
That's cheating. That card's restricted. You should only be able to play it once per turn.
Yeah, right? Game. I do want to say, with these memory boosts, these act as my Tamer. I'm not playing any other Tamer besides Analog Youth, no memory Tamer. So yes, it is easy to be choked at, as far as memory goes. For those of you who don't know me that well, I've kind of, from the beginning, avoided memory tamers. They are really good cards. Do not get me wrong, especially the way the meta has changed now. Back at the very beginning, it almost felt like you wasted a turn playing a tamer when you could kind of just digivolve, give your opponent 1, give your opponent 2, kind of do this nice back and forth, and then or how many times have you had your opponent brick just play a tamer, give you 4, and you're all of a sudden set up like crazy because they give you 4, right? So I definitely thought about putting purple mat in here for the same reason, being able to recycle not just a purple Digimon, but a purple option as well with this particular memory boost. So I definitely don't disagree with the thought process behind putting mat in here, but I found I wanted my option count high. And I wanted another memory boost that I could just crack to get an option in trash to make AvengeKid cheaper.
Makes sense.
Now let's talk about removal in this deck. I'm playing 3 Death the Cannons.
That
Again,
card's so strong.
This was another card of my week on a podcast episode, guys. I'm not saying you need to go watch that episode, but...
you should go watch it.
If you like hearing me talk about a bunch of cards, definitely check out our podcast. But Death the Cannon, great removal. I absolutely love this card. And it's great because I have Blind Mill, but this goes to hand.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, my initial reaction, right, was like, I think I only want to play this as a 2 of because I don't want to keep putting these in hand. I want options in trash. No, I've yet to regret having 3 Death the Cannons. It feels great for removal. It's, 10 cards. It deletes a level 7.
10 cards in trash.
And I feel like I always have 10 cards in trash.
By turn 2, you have.
By like turn 2, I could have 10 cards in trash. I think we did it once in one of our testing. It was like a perfect hand. I went second. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. Death the Cannon also activates in security, and it's not as restrictive as Trump Sword. It doesn't just go to hand like Hell's Gate. It doesn't just kill level 6s like Fly Bullets. It can delete level 7s, and you get to 10 cards pretty quick. An important note to make about this deck is a lot of times you do end up the options going back into the deck, so you actually do take out 10 to 15 cards out of your own deck or out of your own trash, right? So if if this had to be 20 cards, maybe it wouldn't be in here. But it's not unreasonable, just 10. So my last option of the deck is 3 Death Claws. Now, Death Slinger, I do want to do an honorable mention about that. It was in here in my first list. And the guy's first list also played it, and I know why he played it. If you trash it from the deck, you'll gain the memory. I feel like I didn't need that memory gain.
You didn't do a lot of deck trash.
And not only that, it's a 4 cost delete a level 4 or lower. right? So your turn would be over after you play it, right? All you did, yes, deleting one body is good. Sometimes deleting a Mechanori, deleting a Psychmon, Solarmon, Gazimon, whatever, Terriermon, whatever it is your opponent's doing to try to stop you ahead of time, it's really not a bad move. And I understand why Deathslinger's in here. And if you like that card, put it back in, try it. But I ended up going with Deathclaw. Yeah. Deathclaw triggers security, deletes a level 4 or lower. Yes, it does not have that potential to delete higher levels like Deathslinger has, right? Deathslinger, the more cards in trash, the higher level you can delete. But with this deck, again, just like I talked about with Death the Cannon, I don't really get above 30 cards in trash. It's hard for me sometimes to even hit 20 because of the fact that I'm putting these options back into trash early. Yeah. Right? So I think it's important that Deathclaw is in here because the weakness of this deck, guys, is Chikorymon, Solarmon, anything that stops reduction of play cost, right? So there's times where you want this Deathclaw. You'll delete either your Eismon Scatter Mode. For those of you who've been playing Eismon Scatter Mode, you'll know sometimes it swings, it has jamming, and you'll just Deathclaw it so you can just get those 6 cards.
Yeah, you're going to hit a Tamer and live when you want it to die.
Or it's even not a bad idea if you promote out of Eismon Scatter Mode, you delete whatever their first body was that they hard played, whether it was a Searcher, whether it was a Blogger, whatever. You delete their thing, and then you draw all your cards. Yes, you didn't do that security check with the aggression, but it's okay. Yeah. Deathclaw is just really good removal. You can hard play the Sister Mont Blanc, get the draw engine going, then you can Deathclaw it to delete their their Chicory, Solarmon. But you got to have a way to delete that. Otherwise, you will not be able to hard play AvengeKid.
All right. Well, that's it.
This is the deck, guys. So this is the deck that I'm just so excited to build. I will be playing it tonight at our locals. For those of you who are watching this video right as it comes out, thank you for being the best fans ever. On Friday, when our podcast episode releases, I will be sure to tell you the results of how this does. I don't think I'm going to make any changes, but if I do come up with something, I'll be sure to do a follow-up in that particular podcast episode.
All right.
Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
See you next time.